Well, welcome back, everybody. This is the Maine Hockey Report brought to you by the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Benjamin Kennedy. Thank you so much for being here today. I am absolutely delighted, humbled actually, to be welcoming in our next guest from WGME Channel 13 Sports Media Director, David Eade. Dave, thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, and it's an honor to be on your show and come from a big hockey family. My son played college hockey at Worcester State University, and we spent so many weekends in rinks from not only Maine but New Hampshire, all down the New England seaboard. He traveled quite a bit, so it was a lot of fun. Hockey's in our blood for sure.
Yeah, hockey families, man, that's serious business. You guys put some miles on, get the hotel points going. It's a lot.
A lot of late nights, a lot of early mornings, a lot of coffee stops. I can't tell you how many Dunkin' Donuts we hit along the way. They're probably in the thousands.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got a couple of buddies who are going through it right now with, kiddos that are 12, 13 years old. And they're just like, man, it's just, we love it, but it's so expensive and time consuming. But
it is, yeah.
I don't have to tell you how quick these kids grow up. You just have to embrace it and enjoy it, right?
Well, Ben, one image that will always be there is when they lost his last year. He was captain when they lost to Pittsburgh State in the either it was the quarterfinals or the semifinals of the MASCAC, and I remember him going down on one knee on the ice, and that was it. At that moment, his hockey career that started at 4 years old when I took him by the hand to the outdoor rink in Falmouth, to when he was 24. That was it. It was over in the blink of an eye. So I just remember that, Drew going down on one knee, and that had marked the finality of really just a lot of fun and a wonderful career.
Yeah, and good on him for being able to take that moment in and understand that, right? I mean, we all look at pro hockey and even minor league hockey, but that's the 1% of the 1%. 99% of the other guys and girls, college is it.
Yeah. I mean, and even like Division III, for example. I mean, Division III is really hard now. It's gotten so competitive to play even at D3. I mean, the pool talent is incredible. So I mean, you look at teams like UNE, they're borderline low end Division I teams. I mean, they're that good. UNE's that good. I firmly believe that UNE could beat some Division I teams.
I have no doubt about that. And, Dave, I talked to Ben Barr about this last summer that, there's so many players that are D1 talent, but can't get ice time. So to your point, they go find a D3 school where they can play 20 minutes a night. And yeah, I mean, schools like UNE, yeah, they're right there.
I remember vividly, Drew was he was playing junior hockey. He was coming back from an injury, and, they'd given him ice down at UNE, and it was just him on the ice, and he was skating around, and Kevin Swallow came out and we talked, and, he didn't know that was my son. And long story short, he took a tour, loved the facility. I mean, who wouldn't want to play for UNE? And Kevin was really, upfront with me. He said, Dave, he's probably not going to play a lot as a freshman. And that's what they do. They kind of bring their kids along very slowly. And when they become seniors, they're ready to go. And I told Drew, I said, do you want to be in a suit on the glass, watching your teammates, especially that first year? Or do you want to play 4 years, make memories? You're not going to win the NCAA Division III championship, but you're going to create memories, and you're going to build bonds and things like that. And because only one team's going to win it,
right?
And so that turned out to be a good choice for him, because he got to play despite the shoulder injuries that he had, the surgeries and everything. But he got to really make some great memories. And I think really, even in high school or whatever, that's what it's all about. It's not so much winning at all. it's about making those memories that'll last a lifetime.
Always comes back to relationships, right?
Yeah.
With your coaches, with your teammates, with the other guys on the ice. That's awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Well said. Well, Dave, for you, 30 years at WGME, if my math is correct. First of all, congrats on that. What a career it's been for you. I know you're far from done, but obviously you're one of the most recognizable voices here in the city as it comes to sports. A lot has changed in Portland over the past 30 years, from a professional sports perspective. Could you take us on a little jaunt, a little journey through the last 30 years and just how the city's evolved from a sports perspective?
Well, it certainly has. It's evolved not only for the minor league sports teams and the high schools, but even inside the newsroom, where when I first started at GME, we had a 6 o'clock news and an 11 o'clock news at night. And, 2 newscasts. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is, you never knew how good you had it. And now, of course, we start the news at 5 and, there's a 5:30, a 6, a 7, a 10, and an 11. Now, I'm not in all those shows, but I'm in most of them. So it does. It's definitely more work. But as you mentioned, with the minor league teams, the emergence of the Hearts, they came last year. It was their inaugural season, and really took the city by storm, took the state by storm. I mean, if you ever went down to Fitzpatrick Stadium, especially in the summer, once the weather got nice, every game was sold out, overflows. The Maine Mariners have evolved. I mean, they came at a really tough time during COVID, a little prior to COVID, and then had to kind of bounce back from COVID, being a fairly new franchise, taking over the old logo from the original Maine Mariners. And of course, we had the Portland Pirates had such a great run here for a long time. And then, of course, the Maine Celtics changed their name from the Red Claws to the Celtics. And what would Portland sports be without the Sea Dogs, who've just really been the gold standard, I think, for minor league sports, not only here in Maine, but I think in the entire country. I mean, Jeff Iaquesa, Chris Cameron, they just do such a phenomenal job. So it's been an unbelievable ride, to say the least. And couple more years left for sure, and more great magic and highlights to come, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, Portland was voted the #1 minor league city by the Sports Business Journal. I believe that was last year. And yeah, going back to the Sea Dogs comment, I remember whatever their first year was, 92 or 93, being a young guy going to a game. I still remember Charles Johnson behind the plate. What a monster of a guy he was.
Well, he hit a home run. I believe it was the opener in 94.
94.
I think they came in 93, and their first game was in 94. I could be. It's been a long time, but we can definitely look that one up. But he hit a ball that a lot of people believe, ended up on 295. It was a long home run. But of course, back then they were with the Florida Marlins, and then a few years later, they became the AA affiliate of the Red Sox. And of course, this is Red Sox country, so it was a perfect fit. And it's just been a great ride for that franchise. It really has.
And what a fit for the city to have the Celtics, the Red Sox, and the Bruins all represented in those 3 franchises. It's just the symmetry is amazing.
Yeah, and they all do it so well. The Maine Celtics in the winter time, with usually the Celtic draft picks starting up here, and fans get to see really high-end talent. I mean, some of these guys you can't believe haven't made it to the NBA yet. They're
Right.
that good. And then, of course, the Mariners. When the Pirates left, and there was a void, and then we got the Mariners, it was a different level of hockey. We went from the AHL to the ECHL, and I'll tell you what, that's a great league. lot of speed in that league. You get a lot of D1 players, that come over, some D3 as well. But it's really a high-end league, and I think fans have been in for quite an amazing ride this year with this Mariners team that I think can go very, very deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, you talk about guys coming in, these unsigned, D1 guys. We have Robert Cronin that came in from UNH last year, and just been phenomenal. Been a phenomenal guy, phenomenal, good Terrence Wallen find for the team.
Yeah, I love Robert. I told him he could be a sportscaster when his hockey days are done. He's just a great young man, and of course, they got their captain Will Deveaux back now for this playoff series against Adirondack that is almost certain, Ben, to go 7. I mean,
Yeah.
The Mariners went 5-5-5 against them this year. Some of those overtime, losses and wins and that sort of thing. But very evenly matched, these two teams. So game 1's Friday night at the Cross, and I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks in this one.
Oh, there will be. I mean, the joke that me and Keels have running back and forth is that if it's Adirondack and Maine, of course it's going to overtime. It has to, right? Like, we can't decide this in regulation. But yeah, this is going to be a barn burner for sure. Physical, I think that Maine has kind of figured them out a little bit, but it doesn't mean it's going to be an easy series. To that point, though, Dave, you've seen, other championship teams here in the city go back to the Portland Pirates with the Calder Cup. What would a Kelly Cup championship mean to the city of Portland?
I think it would be phenomenal for the city and for the franchise. I honestly think they've done so much good in the community. I mean, a lot of folks don't know, but the players spend a lot of time helping out in the community, whether it's going to visit the kids at the Barbara Bush Children's Hospital. They're really, really a great bunch of guys. It's a very close, tight-knit team. Rick Kowalsky, first-year head coach, has done such an amazing job with this Mariners team. Came over from the New Jersey Devils. It's just been a fantastic ride. I think it would mean a lot. I think it would be a great celebration through through Congress Street. Hopefully not putting the cart before the horse, but this is definitely a team that could do that. They could win the whole thing. I honestly believe that they've got the goaltending with a great 1-2 punch, and their defense is getting healthy. I spoke to Coach late last week about the defense, and it had been banged up there down the stretch, but their blue line is healthy. They got great goaltending, and they've got the scoring as well, and they've got the captain back, Will Deveaux. So I think a Kelly Cup championship is definitely in their sights. I think they can do it, and I think it would mean a lot for not only the city of Portland, but for the state of Maine.
Yeah, they are getting healthy at just the right time, probably about as healthy as they've been all season, which is kind of amazing when you think about the grind that these guys play. And yeah, you talk about Coach Kowalsky, what an amazing coach he's been here, all the connections he have. People want to play for him. You see that with just going back to August and September, some of the guys he brought in, pretty phenomenal. Now, as you remember, he played here back in the Portland Pirate days, and quite a character back then. But what are some of your favorite memories of Coach Kowalsky as a player?
Well, it's funny, when he got the job with the Mariners, I said, hey, we did a Zoom, and I said, hey, Coach, I did a story on you when you get to Portland. He goes, you did? And I said, yeah, and I was playing it for him in the background, and he was cracking up. Of course, it was so long ago, but he was such a grinder, a tough, hard-nosed player, and he brought that spirit to not only the Pirates as a player, but now to the Mariners as a coach. There's a lot of fire in this team. I don't know if you remember, Ben, but maybe a couple of weeks ago, they were down 4 or 5-0, I believe, to Adirondack. It was one of the final regular season games, and they came back and lost, I believe, 6-5 in a shootout. which is just simply amazing. It shows that, they came back from 5 down against a very good hockey team that at the time, they're vying for playoff positioning. So the Maine Mariners, they have the coach's personality on the ice, and that's definitely going to benefit them as the rounds, move on here in the Kelly Cup.
Something that me and Mike talk about on the broadcast at times is the amount of accountability that these players hold to a man. They're so accountable to each other. They're accountable to their coaches. You will see maybe a sleepy first period or a little sleepy 10 minutes, and they come out in the second period and they go gangbusters because they listen to coach. They take coaching well.
I asked him, I said, Coach, would you tell the guys in the second period you're down 4-0? And I left the cross because I had to get back and get ready for the 10 o'clock news. And of course, I have 4 Adirondack goals. And I mean, it's not what you want. You want the other way around. You want 4 Mariner goals. And he said, I really didn't say much. I couldn't really get on them because they played so hard all year. And, there's that fine line as a coach. You don't want to. You don't want to push too hard, especially with the playoffs at that point, just about a week away. So the guys got the message internally. They didn't need the stick smashing or anything in the locker room. They got the message loud and clear, and hats off to them for, making it a game and coming back. And he even said, Coach told me, he said, Dave, we should have won that thing in regulation. So from the second period on, it was all Mariners, and but obviously now in the postseason, you do not want to fall behind even 2-0 to a team because the checking is so much different. The back checking in the playoffs. I mean, a 2-goal lead is pretty good in the playoffs, unless of course you're the Bruins.
We'll talk about that in a second.
But you certainly don't want to fall behind early in a game like that where your season is on the line.
Yeah, the forechecking is going to be tight in this series for sure. Adirondack, obviously, they got some big boys out there. And they've got Brodeur and Net, Brennan as well, both very good, accomplished goaltenders themselves. So, yeah, much like any playoff series, it's going to be those defensive details. It's going to be, playing within your structure. I do think one advantage Maine has is, and I mentioned this to Coach a little while back, is their cardio. I think that the deeper they get into games, they can outskate teams. And it's not like they're just a bunch of soft, slim guys out there. They're pretty physical as well. So they can hit like Adirondack. You get to the third period, either tied or with a lead. I think you can skate circles around them.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of speed up front. There's no doubt about it. You just get, I think playoff hockey is won in that neutral zone. I mean, you've got to really control the puck and, in and out of the offensive zone. I mean, it becomes a game where there's such a premium on goals in the postseason. It's usually you always hear defense wins championships, and both of these teams got great goaltending, solid blue liners, but it's going to come down to who can put the puck in the net more. I mean, it's really that easy and that simple. And the Mariners do have a lot of firepower up front, but it's gonna I think Bennett's gonna be a very long, hard-fought physical series.
That will be kicking off Friday night at the Cross Insurance Arena. I'll be on the broadcast with Mike for Friday and Saturday night. Talking about that old barn, though, the old CCCC, as we so affectionately used to call it. You've covered so many big events there in that building, Dave. What's some of your favorite memories?
I was thinking about this last night. I think the Portland Pirates winning the Calder Cup in '94, I think, has to go to the top of the list. It was just such an amazing night. The way they won, and I've become friends with some of the original members from that team. Kevin Kaminski, we still communicate. My son went to his hockey camps for many years.
Oh, awesome!
Kent Hulst is a good friend of mine who's in town still. So I definitely think that was just a magical team. They came up from Baltimore. The Skipjacks, and
Mhm.
they came their first year. They won the whole thing. Tommy Bright, God rest his soul, what a great owner. He was with that particular time. It was everything broke right. They had Barry Trotz.
Mm.
They've had some great coaches throughout their time here in Portland. You know, Kevin Dineen, the list of Brian Trottier. There's been a lot of heavy hitters that have come through Maine. Coaching the old Pirate team. But I would have to say that one for sure. The night they clinched, I think it was Game 6. The night they clinched the Calder Cup, that was a wild night. They had a lot of sellouts that year. I remember. It was a must-see product. The team was stacked. They had a lot of characters on that team. The Bruce brothers, of course, with Kevin Killer Kaminski, one of the best. Boy, I tell you, I can't ever recall another player who played the game with more passion and more grit and more determination than Kevin Kaminski. He's at the top of the list, whether you're talking NHL, AHL. That man loved to play hockey, and he feared no one on the ice. I think that's just what made him such a fan favorite here in Portland.
Well, turning now to the Boston Bruins, of course, they find themselves down 1-0 in their series with Buffalo. What kind of response should we expect tonight here in Game 2?
Well, you hope it's a positive response. I think, you don't want to lose any playoff game, but to lose in that regard, the way they lost, blowing a 2-0 lead in the third period, I think was really a tough pill to swallow. Now, if you lose 5-0 in the opener, it's a little bit easier to come back from a loss like that. But that was a tough one. Especially Jeremy Swayman was playing so well through 2 periods. I mean, he was a brick wall. But you kind of got that feeling when Buffalo had that wraparound goal. I think it was Thompson who scored.
Mm-hmm.
You really felt the momentum switch. Buffalo had finally broken through. It had been 15 years since they won a playoff game. That place exploded. I was reading somewhere online, it went from morgue to Maine. And it's true. That was just a huge comeback win. To score 4 goals in under 7 minutes in the third period is unbelievable. For that program, that franchise, and they've been starving for a winner. And my fear is that they've got a lot of momentum going for them right now. But if the Bruins can even this thing up tonight, which they really have to do, and head back home, tied 1-1, I think they'll be in great shape. If they go down 2-0, I think they could be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and I think the most frustrating part is the Bruins did a lot of things defensively that they wanted to do. They controlled the neutral zone. They did not allow a lot of odd man rushes. Yeah, there were a few high danger chances out there, which you're going to give up, and Boston has a propensity for giving those up. But overall, they did a lot of good things defensively, but just a couple of breakdowns. I mean, that first one, Swayman, there was a little miscommunication. I think Swayman thought McAvoy had the puck, and he didn't, and Tage comes around the other side. And then Andrew Peeke getting kind of taken off his skates on that second goal where the forecheck comes in, and could have made a better play there. But just 2 or 3 mistakes, and that's all it takes.
That's all it takes, especially in the playoffs. And, Pasternak with 2 breakaways. One of them was maybe a partial. But, a guy like that, scores 40, 50 goals without blinking an eye. I mean, he's got to connect those. I mean, that's your goal scorer right there. So I just think it just wasn't their night for whatever reason. Hopefully they bounce back tonight. They're going to need it.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting down 2-0, not a equation for success, let's say. But we'll see what happens here tonight. Puck drops at 7:30. I believe it is both on NESN and was ESPN or TNT tonight for that game. Of course, Swayman most likely, I would imagine, will be back in that. I can't imagine they'll
Oh
go
yeah,
to
it's gonna be,
Corpusalo.
yeah, it'll be Swayman. I mean, you really can't fault him that much for
No.
the loss. I mean, I think he's the reason why they are where they are. This was supposed to be a retooling year with the Bruins, and you see a lot of those young faces, and really a lot of them have panned out. They're a really good hockey team. But Jeremy Swayman said, especially the second half of the year, he's been outstanding. Of course, former Maine Black Bear. I got to know Jeremy a little bit better when we put our Gary Stevens, longtime athletic director at Thornton Academy. We had co-authored a book called Stolen Seasons, and about how Maine sports got through the pandemic. And Jeremy was at the University of Maine at the time everything shut down, and he, in the book, he talks about how that Black Bear team, they had the mojo, they had everything going for them. They had home ice in that Hockey East quarterfinal. I believe they were playing UConn, and everything got shut down. So I had a chance to really talk to him about that. And I remember him telling me that's in the book. I remember him telling me that was one thing that he'll never ever kind of forget and let go of, because he really thought that Black Bear team could go very far in the NCAAs.
Yeah, the pandemic took so many of those seasons away from teams like UMaine. You don't get those times back at all.
No,
No sport flips faster than hockey. One power play, a goalie pulled with 2 minutes left, and everything changes. DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, is built for that kind of chaos with live betting from puck drop to the final buzzer. And DraftKings has your back with early exit protection. If you place a pre-game player prop bet and your player starts the game but leaves in the first period due to injury and doesn't return, you'll get your bet back in cash. No bonus bets, no opt in, just real protection when injuries happen early. New sportsbook customers bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN so you're ready for the moment. That's code THPN. Turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-MY-RESET. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 and over in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
Of course, Jeremy, one of the most popular Bruins, also a little bit polarizing as well. And I mean, regular listeners on my show know how I feel about Swayman. I think he's amazing. I think that any of this Boston Bruins hatred he gets is completely just unfounded. He's the MVP of the team, in my opinion. But in your opinion, Dave, just how important has he been to this Bruins team?
I think he's been everything. He's definitely earning that contract. They're paying him as a top 5 maybe goalie in the NHL, and I think he's proven to be all that. And again, your goalie can only be so good. It's the players in front of him. It's the defensemen. It's little things. Getting the puck out of the zone. Little things that really get magnified in the NHL if you're not, if you're not doing your job on the back end. So I think Jeremy is. I don't think he's done improving. I think he could be eventually a Vezina Trophy winner. Down the road, he's that good. He's that talented. And the Bruins have always traditionally been built on, from the goal cage out. Hard-nosed, defensive-minded, physical team. Those are the Bruin teams I grew up with as a kid. They're obviously a little bit more talented now up front. I mean, with guys like Pasta and Peeke, and it's a nice mix. They've got a really nice mix. But as far as Swayman goes, I think the best is really yet to come.
Yeah, I don't think he's hit a ceiling yet. To your point, I think there's still room for growth there. But yeah, he's my MVP. I don't think the Bruins are any place near the playoffs without him this year. And I think he deserved better on Sunday night, too. So
Yeah.
hopefully the team will play a little bit better around and play a complete 60 and get this thing tied 1-1. Going to the Stanley Cup in general, though, who do you have for a favorite this year for that cup?
I to be 100% honest, I mean, I follow the NHL. I mean, I really follow the Bruins more closely, but I'd have to say, just off the top of my head, I think Colorado's going to be a tough out. I think they're really, really solid. I mean, they're about as good as it gets. Offensively, defensively, they're just so loaded, especially up front. I think, and then, Edmonton, not a favorite this year, but, anytime you get those guys that can do a lot of damage up front and they can make lives miserable for opposing defensemen, I think they could be a sleeper team as well. Montreal's looked good in the East. Kind of surprising. They've done a lot of. You talk about a team that's retooled and regrouped. I think Montreal, Carolina's going to be good. Carolina seems to kind of have that mojo going. So we'll see. I think it's, like you mentioned, Ben, it really comes down to, I think the teams that make the least amount of mistakes, those are the ones that are still skating into late May.
Nate McKinnon is probably my favorite non-Bruin player to watch. He's just a freight train on skates and just powerful and speed and just really I think the most complete player in the league. No disrespect to McDavid or Kucherov or some of those other guys. It's Nate McKinnon for me all day, every day. And your point about Montreal, regardless of how far they go this year, Dave, they're going to be a problem for a while in this Atlantic division. I am a little bit nervous about that, but good on them. They've built that team the right way. They've gone through the draft. They've added a couple key veterans, and we got to be honest, as Bruins fans, the league is just a little bit better when they're good.
Yeah, as a kid growing up, there was nothing more exciting than a Bruins Canadiens playoff series. In fact, I was bored the other night. I went on to YouTube and I think it was the 78 Eastern Conference Final, 78 or 77. They had, the late Fred Cusick and John Pearson calling the game on Channel 38. And, you look at the game then and you look at it now, and it's obviously, two different games. I mean, it's so much faster now. But that era, those two teams, the guys like Guy Lafleur and Serge Savard and Larry Robinson and of course Terry O'Reilly and Peter McNabb and Brad Park. Those were the good old days. That's what really hooked me into hockey. Was those Bruins teams of the 1970s. And when Bobby Orr was doing his thing, there was such an explosion of MDC rinks in Massachusetts. They were going up like popcorn. I mean, they were going up everywhere, and they all looked the same. And a lot of them are still there today, and they look exactly the same. You walk into the rink and you know where everything is. Where the vending machines are.
That's awesome.
But yeah, those Canadian games. I remember going to I was at Curry College. I can't remember what year it was, but the Bees and the Habs were playing in the playoffs, and Gordy Kluzak was on the Bruins, and my friend and I went down to the Old Garden. We got tickets, and I vividly remember during the national anthem. Of course, they did the Canadian anthem first, and halfway through the national anthem, the place just was erupting, and the glass was shaking, and I'm like, I couldn't even imagine being a player on the ice, listening to that noise, as the anthem was being sung, and it was unbelievable. Something I'll never forget.
I mean, I get chills just hearing you talk like that. I mean, that's pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool memory for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, well, it should be fun. Again, we got the Bruins tonight. Then they return home on Thursday for Game 3, Sunday for Game 4. Well, as much as we like talking hockey, I do have you on. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little Maine high school sports, because I know that's a big thing that you cover at Channel 13 as well. Dave, we know basketball and football so popular here in the state. Can you talk about maybe some other emerging sports at the high school level that are growing in popularity and participation?
Well, right off the top of my head, volleyball is becoming huge. It really started up a few years ago. With there were several teams, and now it's just exploded. And the excitement, going into a gym on a Wednesday night to see two teams going at it, and the place is packed, and every point matters. I think volleyball right now is at the top of that list. It really is. It's electric, and it's a lot. It's a lot like having a kid playing hockey. There's so many different travel teams now, so the kids aren't only playing for their high schools, but they're going down to like Massachusetts on the weekends and playing for their travel teams. And we see a lot of young ladies getting scholarships, moving on to college to play. So volleyball is here, not only here to stay, but it is growing by leaps and bounds. High school sports in general, once we got through COVID, was it's bounced back at all levels. It's great to see the kids. It's one of those things, you don't know what you got until it's gone.
Right.
And I think once we got sports back, at the local level, I think it was just great for everyone, for the kids most importantly, but for us as well as journalists and of course coaches, ADs, just going back to doing what we love to do.
Well, Cooper Flagg, of course, Maine native, once in a generation type of guy. Dave, athletes like him, we know, don't come along that often. With that being said, do you anticipate there being a Cooper Flagg-like effect where maybe more collegiate and pro scouts maybe take a deeper dive, take a deeper look at some of the Maine high school athletes?
Well, that's a really good point. I think anything like that is possible. I mean, Cooper's so tied into Maine. I mean, Maine's always going to be his home, even though, now his other home is in Dallas. But I think that's a really, really good point. We've got some great athletes. We saw JP Estrella, who went against Cooper in an exhibition game when Cooper, I believe, was in the 8th grade or going into his freshman year. But JP has moved on to Michigan. He'll be in the NBA someday, I'm sure. So I think this is going to be a snowball effect. I really do. But to have a young man from Newport, Maine, going number 1 overall in the NBA draft, I think is something we may never see again. You can never say never, but I mean, we were in Brooklyn for the draft. It was just a surreal moment, I think, for everyone. Player from Newport, would go number 1 overall, and it wasn't even a doubt who Dallas was going to take. It was not, that was, we all knew he was going number 1. So just an amazing, one of the most amazing stories I think we've ever covered. His freshman year at Nokomis, they go on to win a first ever state championship. Then, he goes off, eventually goes to Montverde, wins a championship there. Then he goes to Duke. As a freshman, he led the team to the Final Four. They fell a little bit short. Maybe it was the Elite Eight. I'm not sure what Duke
did. I can't remember.
It was the Final Four, the Elite Eight. But, and then, to go, and then Dallas to have that pick, when they didn't have the best odds to land the number 1 pick, was remarkable. It was really a perfect storm for the state of Texas to get our guy from Maine.
Well, just a couple more for you here, Dave. Of course, you covered all the high school sports. Do you have any favorite events that you cover from the high school perspective each year?
Well, I mean, Super Saturday is always fun for, high school football. I mean, we do, we have a Friday Night Lights show. It's been, I've been at GME for 30 years, so it's been there for 30 years. And we take a lot of pride into that. And so, on Saturday when we have those 2 championship games at Fitzpatrick Stadium, those are always special. But really, honestly, just getting a chance to cover the kids, whether it's a regular season game or a state final game, I think it's fun when you see a kid make an outstanding play. I'm always going to put that on the highlight reel, and I really keep the errors and all those things. I try to keep them out of the highlights because they're just kids. They're doing their best out there, and it's a lot of fun really watching them. And it just wasn't too long ago my kids were in high school, playing sports. So it's something you really have to keep in mind. They're doing their best out there, and really only one team's going to win in each division. So.
And I think it's such a good point. They are just kids. They are just kids. We know that sometimes parents can be the worst part of that equation for high school coaches or officials out there. I got to mention my buddy Lucas McNally, who has the Maine Basketball Rankings podcast. And he, I know we had a video a couple of years ago of a parent getting thrown out of a building. And I think it got like 3 million views on Facebook. Like, it was just nuts. But yeah, we got to remember, these are just kids. They're just kids, and it's not life or death,
Yeah, no, absolutely. A couple of memories that have stuck with me. I remember in April of 2019, I had to have a mitral valve replacement. So I had open heart surgery, and my first day back at work was the state championship games in June. So I'm hobbling over to Fitzpatrick Stadium. And I really wasn't supposed to be carrying anything over 12 pounds, but I had my camera, and St. Dom's was playing in the girls lacrosse championship, and they had just enough players. They couldn't sub anyone out because they had kids that went overseas to Rome for vacation. So they didn't have enough. They didn't have any subs. So this young lady, Avery Ludwig-Imagn, I think she scored 7 or 8 goals. St. Dom's wins, and I remember asking her for an interview after the awards and all that stuff. And I said, "Boy, you must feel amazing. Talk about the win and all those goals you had, and your team needed every one of them." And she, before she said anything, she stopped and she said, "More importantly, how are you feeling?" And I just thought, here's a young girl, 17 years old, just won a state championship, was really the key behind the Saints season and in the state championship game. And I was just so blown away by those words, and those are the kind of kids we have here in Maine. They're really caring. They really they're special, and that's why we do what we do. They're just it was, like I said, I tell that story often, and I didn't even know she knew that I was gone for 6 weeks. So it was really nice.
Yeah, big-hearted moment for sure. Good on her, and good on mom and dad, because they clearly did something right with her for sure, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, of course, friend of the show here, Neston's Adam Pellerin, of course, someone you know very well, an old colleague of yours from WGME all those years ago. Please, Dave, tell me you've got a couple of funny Adam Pellerin stories for us today.
Well, I'll tell you one that won't get us in trouble.
Okay.
Adam was like a son to me. He really was. I remember when he sent up his tape for the vacant job. Butch Stearns from the Fox affiliate down in Boston called me up, and I've known Butch for a long time. Great guy. He said, "Davey, you got to give this guy a chance." And really, I wasn't doing the hiring. It was my news director, and he did. He gave Adam a chance, and he didn't really have much experience at that time. But he knocked it out of the park. I mean, it was just such a pleasure to work with Adam. And like I said, he was a son to me. He would come down, my kids were small, and he would come down to visit, and he had a motorcycle. So in the winter, I would let him store it in our tool shed over in Gorham, and he was so appreciative. But one of my, actually at the time, it wasn't a funny favorite story, but we were covering the Oxford 250 one night, and Adam was in the studio at the desk, and this was long before we had like live view units where we could just go live in an instant. We had to raise the mast, and it was just, so we're driving back. It was a late finish. I mean, really late. There were yellow caution flags, there were rain, there was everything. So we're driving back, and we pulled off and somewhere in Gray, and my photographer Mike hoisted the mast, and we needed to feed like the final couple laps of the race. But they, the one thing is they don't really they didn't have programs of the numbers of the drivers, and sometimes, and this happens today, sometimes you'll have like two number 95 cars. And I remember when I got nailed once, I tweeted out the wrong name that was in the lead, the 295s. And I'm like, well, geez, 50-50 chance, and I got it wrong. But so we're feeding back the highlights to Adam, and he's like, who are these drivers? I'm like, I don't know. 24 passes 67, 72. And so the poor guy, he went on the air, and he didn't have any names to go with the numbers, but he wasn't happy. It's something we still talk about today. That I don't know how we pulled through that one, especially being fairly new. But we really thought at that point that we'd have plenty of time to come back and put a piece together. And but it was just one of the 250. They usually start around 6:30. It can be over at 7:45, or it can be over at 7:45. It all depends, weather, wrecks, things like that. And, right. So that was one moment that'll live in infamy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And he's doing such a great job for Nesson, and probably one of the best, if not the best dressed guy there at Nesson on camera. No offense to Jaffe and Razor, but
Yeah, he's pretty dapper. He's always been a really good dresser, and he's definitely he's definitely earned his stripes. I'm so glad that we've had since I've been there. Evans Boston was with me. He's now got a great job with the Maine Celtics. Of course, Adam, being at Nesson. So we've had, it's great to see, these young guys move on and do great things. And it's certainly, sitting in the back watching all this now, it's amazing. Tom Caron was at Channel 13 for a while, and he was with the Pirates before heading to Boston. And I got to know TC really well. So there's definitely a Maine-Boston connection. And to be honest with you, when I go cover events in Boston, whether it's, the Sox home opener or, Celtics playoff game, you see the local media, and we all kind of know one another, whether they've been in sports, whether, the natural transition is to go south to Boston for a lot of these, reporters and anchors. And I'm super happy that everything worked out for both Adam and TC.
It's awesome. Awesome stuff. Well, Dave, thank you so much for this time today. I absolutely appreciate it. This has been a real treat to talk to you. What's coming up next at WGME?
Well, we're going to go in there today, Ben, and we're going to find out. We got the Sea Dogs back in town. We've got, the Mariners entering the playoffs, and of course the Bruins and Celtics. And also, I do want to mention that beginning we started in January. I'm actually working on a totally new project that's not really sports related. It's called Amazing America 250. And what it is the company that that owns us is running these specials on the birth of America. So each week I write and produce a piece about, interesting historical events surrounding Maine. They could be inventions. They could be, great poets. The one we did for this week coming up on Thursday is on Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. And, we just had, we've had some amazing, I've learned so much about history. Hannibal Hamlin, the only vice president of the United States ever from Maine. He's from Paris, Maine. So there's just so much great history, and the pieces will continue every Thursday and until July 4th as we celebrate our 250th birthday. And if any of your listeners want to check it out, they can either go to WGME.com, or we also have a YouTube page, Amazing America 250. It should be under Maine WGME, and all the pieces are there. It's just been amazing. What I've learned has been unbelievable.
Awesome stuff, guys. Go check out that YouTube page. Go give it a follow. That is awesome. I'm a history guy myself, Dave, a history degree, so I'm definitely going to go check that out myself. Thank you again, Dave. This was really generous of you, and thanks so much.
My pleasure, Ben. It's been awesome, and let's hope the Mariners and Bruins can pull these first round series out, and we can keep playing hockey deep into the spring.
Let's hope so. Well, everybody, thank you so much for watching, listening today. If you haven't hit that like and subscribe button yet, please do so. Helps the channel out. And if I don't see you on Friday, definitely go check out the Mixler app and Flow Hockey TV for the call of that game with me and Mike. Guys, thanks again. And until next time, be kind, show love, and God bless.